And this is another one of those ways. Can you get around Esper Dragons? One of the dangers has been the more mid-rangey you get, the tougher this matchup becomes.
So I am guessing, you know, you've just played, or you've played a lot more Esper Dragons than I have. Is Perforos a problematic card? Now, you can counter it, obviously, but assuming Perforos resolves, how big of a problem is that for Robbie?
You don't have many ways to get it off the battlefield. It's one. Remember, Esper Dragons, in a lot of ways, isn't a pure control deck. You don't have answers for everything. You don't always win against every matchup when you go super late. In a lot of ways, you're a mid-range deck. Perforos, Whip of Erebos, Mastery of the Unseen, these cards are problematic for you if they resolve. See both players here at 7 and 0. So these players are into day 2 with room to spare, and they're trying to be the 9-0 player. They trade tap lands to start the game. Zack Fast is on 6 cards. Starts on Seeker of the Way. Yeah, I would expect a Perforos to be a pretty big deal if it comes down. The thing which Esper Dragons can do is they hang on to control for a while, but instead of trying to hang on to control indefinitely and grind you out with card advantage, they only need to hang on to control until they can start smashing Ojutais into you. And it's good to remember with this deck that's, you know, it's a lot that they do have a turn the corner moment. If you remember the old blue-black control decks that used to be a stack of Think Twices and then 3 Grave Titans, it's kind of similar in that regard, where you're just surviving to your finisher. You're not surviving forever.
Sure.
Go over to Zack's turn as Robbie plays another Dismal Backwater. He's going to raise the alarm to prowess his Seeker of the Way, swing it on in. See if he has more lands. Remember, he was down a card. I like committing a lot into the board here because there aren't actually that many ways that Robbie punishes you for this play.
No, and you know, the big thing you got to worry about is turn 5 Crux of Fate, but that's a lot different than the 4-mana sleepers we've seen in Standard over the last couple of years. And you know, Zack just has to get the ball rolling here, so he can afford to be pretty aggressive with the way he develops early on.
Yeah, it's insurance against Foul Tongue Invocation, actually. Would you look at the kill spells that Robbie plays at 3? It's Hero's Downfall, Foul Tongue Invocation, and Dissolve. No, getting that Raise the Alarm main phase, sorcery speeding it on turn 3 is probably the correct play. And heads up on him to know that, because that kind of play feels awkward.
Yeah. Now, a problem for Zack in the matchup here, at least game 1, is he does have a fair amount of explicit creature removal. There's 3 copies of Chain of the Rocks, 2 copies of Valorous Stance, which has other utility, but it's hard to cash in that profitably. 3 copies of Lightning Strike as well, which is not super efficient. So, especially on a mulligan, if he draws a lot of these creature removal spells or these cards that are hard to cash in for value, it's going to make it much easier for Robbie to sort of get to the 5th or 6th turn of the game, deploy a dragon at a reasonable light total, and take the game over from there.
Yeah, swings in for 4 damage. Robbie down to 15, but Zack's still stuck on 2 lands as he'll pass again. Robbie's going to go ahead and end step, crack a fetch land. Might throw out something like a Hero's Downfall here, wanting to hold up Dissolve as well. He's ahead by enough that he doesn't have to kill spell straight away. He can take damage and then kill spell on end step. Really a show of strength. You see he does have a copy of Silumgar's Scorn in his hand, and regardless whether he has the dragon, which I believe he does, the fact that Zack's choked on mana, I mean, Silumgar's Scorn is counter spell.
Yeah, and Robbie gets to play that classic control game now of leave my mana up in case you deploy something that I need to counter, and if you don't, pick apart your board with removal spells.
Yeah.
Although I believe Robbie may be without white mana, both in play and in his hand. And if that's the case, that's a reprieve for Zack here, because with the pace of the game right now, turn 5 Dragon Lord Ojutai is going to be pretty hard for him to beat. And if Robbie doesn't have it, then he's got to try to weather the storm with removal spells and counter spells, and Zack's pretty well equipped to play that game.
Goblin Rabble Master at the play from Zack. Robbie cannot let that one happen. He'll Silumgar Scorn it. Since Zack's tapped out, he's going to go ahead and not reveal the dragon. Robbie's probably pretty happy just to be trading cards in any capacity. He does have Dig Through Time in his hand, so filling up his graveyard is just great.
Yep. He's happy to make these kind of exchanges. He's got to be concerned now with Zack having the 3rd land and the new wave of threats coming. Robbie doesn't have unlimited defenses here, but if he can hold off for long enough to find white mana, and I believe he's drawing Quetzalcoatlus this turn, huge draw, then he can just slam down Dragon Lord Ojutai.
And that's the thing, and I like Robbie's play a lot here. You know, you look at this and you say, hey, he could Dig Through Time, or he could just smash Ojutai, and I think one of the, you know, kind of the newbie mistakes of the deck is to say, oh, you know, I'll draw some cards, I'll kill his things. I like the wherewithal that Robbie has to know that, no, this deck is about hitting people with Ojutai a lot of the time.
And there was a risk here. I don't know if he's familiar with Zack's list, but if Zack had land number 4 and deployed Perforos, Ojutai may not be able to keep him up.
Absolutely true. He's going to swing in with 2 tokens.
Ooh.
All right. Now you have to think, what is going on? What could happen?
The card that I would probably guess if I was in Robbie's seat here is Titan Strength.
He's going to call it. He'll block.
Yeah.
And I agree. Yeah, that's too weird. And it's not even that, if he has it, it's not even that bad for you.
You're also playing against a Chain to the Rocks deck, so you untap, you attack with Dragon Lord Ojutai. There's no guarantee this thing goes all the way. So you
No.
get to cash in for a token and a pump spell. In the worst case scenario, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and Zack's attack there, I mean, the problem is that if you aren't attacking into Ojutai, what are you doing at that point? You know, if you could try to hold up a kill spell for it, like a Valor stance. He's just going to get hit, go down to 18, and now Robbie will anticipate. Sees Foul Tongue Invocation as one of the top 3. I believe he also has a counter spell of some sort. The Foul Tongue gives him a lot of insurance against a red deck, but if he doesn't have a hard counter, you may just see him take the counter. It's sitting back on a hard counter and a dig through time is a great position for Robbie Calhoun.
Yeah, he can fight over, if he's concerned about Chain of the Rocks. Now, Zack doesn't have a mountain right now, but, he gets to pick the fight and save Dragon Lord Ojutai if that comes up, and if not, it's going to hold some good play out of Zack.
Yeah, I believe Dissolve was the card taken by Robbie. See a lot of lands here, and he's going to go ahead and play the fetch lands. The reason here is he wants to be able to dissolve and dig through time in the same turn, and he can only do that if he adds a card to his graveyard with a fetch.
Exactly. The Dissolve is the 4th card, the Polluted Delta is the 5th card, then he has 3 mana left over, 5 cards in the graveyard, and he can cast Dig Through Time. Very good use of just being efficient here from Robbie.
End to step, secure the weights for from Zack Fast. It was just a secure for 2, but that was enough for Robbie to dissolve. Maybe just Robbie wants to make sure Dissolve gets in the graveyard, and this card's not the best, but it's something.
I think he's committed to dissolving the first reasonable play. And look, Robbie's at 10 right now. If he doesn't have Bioblight in hand, I feel like he's got to pick a fight over something like Secure for 2. You don't want to go down to 7 here, and what else are you going to dissolve?
Outpost Siege in Zack's hand. If he hits the 4th land, he does have some real good 4-drops. Here comes the token. That's for 1. Robbie down to 9. And doesn't have land. You see, he does have that copy of Perforos in his hand. With the 4th land, that would have been a lot of damage. But the window may just have closed. So Robbie fetches down to 9, puts a 5th card in the graveyard, and he's going to go digging.
Now, Zack's deck has a lot of 4s, and it's only got 22 lands. So it's not that unreasonable that this has happened. But he's had a couple spots here where he had ripped land number 4 untapped and deployed Perforos. Even if Robbie drew pretty well off of Ojutai and so forth, he could still be in trouble.
Yeah, a danger actually here, if you look at the specifics of Zack's lands, he has Tempo, Plains. I believe he is stuck with a Change to the Rocks in his hand as well.
And there's only 8 mountains in the list. There's no copies of Evolving Wilds or other ways to sort of cheat that thing. So Chain of the Rocks is not going to be very consistent for Zack.
Yeah, this is one of the... I mean, it's not a good card in the matchup to begin with. It may have been good this game, but not even going to get to do that.
I think Zack would have been happy to be able to cast it. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have answered Dragon Lord Ojutai or drawn out a counterspell and would have only cost 1 mana, but them's the breaks.
Here's that end-step dig through time from Robbie. He had to go down to fetch to 8, I believe, to cast it. And this is one of the things, dig through time is really good. It doesn't always just win the game when you cast them on an advantage board state. Sometimes you just find you can just find some pretty mediocre things.
Yeah, it's especially the case when you need to make land drops. Not that Robbie's in that spot right now, but when you're in a spot where you have to take a land and a card,
That's not even that good.
it's not even really that good.
I mean, it's a lot like Courser of Krufix, where you get a free land and then draw a spell.
Yep.
And you do it once. You're like, okay, that's nice, but it's not game winning.
And you might have had to time some spells kind of awkwardly along the way to be able to resolve it on time.
Right. This time, though, Robbie, no problems of lands. He's taking spells. Looks like he just took another dig through time and a removal spell of some sort. Which, think about it, that's paying a lot of mana and resources to net 1 card.
Dig Through Time is a curious card for Robbie to want there. I didn't get a good look at the other options he had afforded to him, but it's hard to imagine this game goes on for long enough that you're able to resolve the second Dig Through Time, and it was relevant.
Yeah. And this Ojutai hits again, and now the options were great. He had Crux of Fate, Bioblight, and Foul Tongue Invocation all as options off that Ojutai trigger. And I believe taking Foul Tongue Invocation, a real show of strength from Robbie.
Yeah, Robbie probably is primarily concerned with getting burned out at this point. And
Yep.
so gain 4 life, kill a token. Robbie's happy to take that card here.
Well, that dig through time found him a Silumgar's Scorn, so the game has switched. Instead of being on the defense, Robbie's picturing this deck as being on the offense. He's going to hit with Ojutai and counter removal spells for Ojutai. And in the situation he's on the offense, he has a 3-turn clock, so instead of wanting to find answers like Crux of Fate, he wants to find life gain, things that make him win the race.
Yeah.
He's not a control deck anymore.
Exactly, and he's just worried about preventing the weird punk outs that involves Ojutai getting killed or just a lot of burn spells coming and not being able to interact with it. So life gain's valuable for him. Counter spells are great.
Yeah, here's a swing. Robbie could take one. He could also just foul tongue it. If he's going to do it anyway, maybe he does it now. No, go to 7. He's fine.
Anytime before the end of the last round of the open.
I might foul tongue anyway here.
If you'd like to get some extra sleep and show up
Okay.
just a few minutes before
A little surprised he didn't do that before, just because that's what it was always going to hit. But okay, he goes up to 12.
Premier IQs up on the stage.
As we go back, gets to untap with Ojutai. And this is the frustrating part about playing against the deck, is that once Ojutai hits once, you just get the sinking feeling that it's never going to stop.
Yeah, you basically, in my opinion, have a 1-turn window to kill it. If they connect once, anticipate, and you can kill it after that, you're probably okay. You're not buried yet. But the second hit, it's often just too much to overcome.
Yeah, Ojutai connecting for the 3rd time, finds another Foul Tongue Invocation. And you see he's going through a ton of them. This is one of the movements of the deck. Robbie playing 4 Foul Tongue Invocations in the main.
And a lot of that's a concession to the mirror match, where you want as many copies of that card as you can really get your hands on, at least game 1. And then it also helps quite a bit in the heroic matchup.
Yeah, down to just 2 copies of Anticipate, only 2 copies of Dissolve to make room for those. And up to 4 Ojutais and 1 Silumgar. Portland Outburst, that'll get a counter spell.
And I love no hesitation there from Robbie. At this point, he's not using his counter spells and saying, I'm going to try to stop the one singular card I care about. He's trying to close the game
racing.
out. He knows that Zack can't really fight back with no board, and so this also sets the stage for him to have a very efficient dig-through time with his leftover mana.
Yeah, and that dig-through time, perfect amount of mana, 7 cards, probably will find another counter spell. Doesn't even need to. He has a second note. He could just swing with Ojutai, and then if it dies, play another Ojutai. That's fine. He has one in hand.
I really like the way that Robbie is navigating this game, because he's not viewing it from the perspective necessarily of what are the list of cards that I really concern myself with and allow my opponent to make inroads on the board otherwise. He's saying the game's over in 2 turns. This card was my opponent's entire turn. I'm stopping it.
Yeah, he's playing this as an aggressive deck, not as a control deck. He thought sees. Sure, he'll go to 10. Take a look at what he's up against. And I'm not even sure if I'm Zack if I want to show him this Perforos. But he will. Stoke, Perforos, Chain to the Rocks, Outpost Siege.
And you can see Zack had a plan here. I mean, he was hoping that he could get that Hoarding Outburst to resolve. That would have allowed him to stoke the flames, because that's basically free. Yep. And maybe he can put it together lethal. I mean, there was a game plan here. It just didn't work out because Robbie had no hesitation there and just used Silumgar, scored immediately on the Hoarding Outburst.
And here's Ojutai, finds 3 cards, only 1 spell. Robbie will easily take that. More Foul Tongues in his hand. And Robbie just full grip, with Dragonlord's Prerogative in hand, Dig Through Time in hand, not casting any of them. Stoke on Ojutai will get countered. Zack's down to 3, passes. Robbie untap until hit. That'll do it. Game 1 over to Robbie Calhoun.
Very efficient, very fast game. And that's great for Robbie too, that you're playing a deck where there's risks of the clock being an issue, and whenever you're able to win game 1 and you see 36 minutes on the clock, that gives you some insurance, because if you play a protracted game 2, you're going to have a lot of time to work with. So there's a lot of incentives there for Robbie to try to end the game as fast as possible, and I really liked his approach of, once he got ahead on the board, he was very aggressive in using removal spells and counter spells to prevent Zack from getting any traction in the game, and won a very quick game 1 as a result.
All right, players are getting ready to sideboard for game 2. One thing we have coming up, as we do every Pro Tour weekend, this summer we're going to have the 2015 Star City Games Summer Regionals. Those are taking place on August 1st, which is the same weekend as Pro Tour Magic Origins. We have this unique playmat that made. This is the selfie playmat parody, which is the Oscars shot from, if you've seen that, when featuring Ellen DeGeneres. This happened during the Oscars. You had a lot of celebrities all together. Well, we've done our own celebrities. There are our game night creatures and pins, and they're all here mugging for the camera as well. This is guaranteed to the first 200 pre-registered people at each regional, so you are going to want to pre-register for that. We're just unveiling the playmat for now, but registration and things and locations will come out later on. Remember, this is August 1st, and you can find out about it at starcitygames.com/regionals.
Keep in mind, these are always run, our state championships, our regional championships, they're run on Pro Tour weekends. So if you're not qualified and you live in the United States, you can head over to starcitygames.com regionals as we get a little bit closer to the event, find out the regional championship closest to you, and participate in some high-level competition. We had our state championship that was standard on Saturday, and then a modern state championship on Sunday that was very well received. And so we're excited to bring this event back August 1st, Pro Tour weekend.
I got to play that for the first time.
Ooh.
It was sweet, yeah.
What'd you play?
I played Amulet Bloom in Modern. Yeah, I made top 8, but I was not the state champion.
Okay.
I played the mirror match in top 8. That's not fun. It's really not interesting.
It's just whoever kind of has it.
Yeah. I mean, you board in 5 interactive things.
It's a lot. 5's a lot.
Maybe more like 4 or 3. You just kind of hope that you have it, and being on the die roll, being on the play is better, but having it's better than that. It's not that cool.
How long have you been playing Magic for? What was your first set?
That's really, so you mean like if someone bought me cards, or actually I knew what I was doing?
Somewhere in the middle of those two spots. I'm not saying
we'll
fully
say
formed
2.
Rookie of the Year Matthias Hunt, but you kind of knew what the decks were and you were okay.
In college, I went to some Magic Club meetings. That would have been 2005.
Okay, so this
There
might
we
be a
go.
little bit before your time, but in the old magazines, there's something called Magic the Puzzling, which is just, here's
I've
this
seen that book.
very
Yeah.
complicated board state and figure out, not even necessarily how to win the game, often the puzzles were, figure out how to get to 100 life, or figure out how to kill all of your opponent's creatures, or whatever the case may be. I was never very good at those kind of things. That's not where my strengths as a Magic player lie. And so decks like Amulet Bloom, which feel much more like Magic the Puzzling to me than Magic the Gathering, they are not in my wheelhouse. But I know this is kind of your core strength is decks like this.
I've been trying to keep a list of every time I see a board state that I feel like is a Magic the Puzzling puzzle when I play Amulet Bloom. I screenshot it, and I'm trying to get enough of them where I could, to be like, hey, here's a bunch of really sweet Amulet puzzles.
Sure.
Some of them I solved, some I didn't in time, and it does happen, which is kind of neat that you don't normally encounter them naturally in game states.
Yeah, but with Amulet, it comes up all the time. Where
Yeah,
there's these
it feels
convoluted,
that way.
figure out a way to get your Titan into play and have it get haste this turn. And often there's some finagling to do that you can set that up, but that is not where my skills as a Magic player really lie.
I think that's why I really like coming back and just continuing. Combo decks oftentimes can get pretty repetitive if you play them. I think that's why I really still enjoy playing the deck about 2 years after starting to play it, is that you hope those situations are going to come up because they're that fun.
And High Tide, another deck that you play, has some elements of that, probably not to the same degree as Amulet Bloom, but there's some.
Yeah.
Can you figure out a way to look at one more card, or you know what I mean?
It's interesting. So High Tide, the cantripping is really difficult because you have just 100 of them. Once you start comboing, it's really forgiving because you just have 100,000 mana, so if you do everything in the wrong order, it's fine. With Amulet, the entire combo procedure is walking on pins. It's you screw up one thing, you're like, oh, I it's not just I'm okay, it's I lost when you screw something up.
As opposed to a deck like Sneak and Show, which is, there's not a ton of nuance to the way you're setting up your particular spots. It's just kind of catch your stuff, and there's definitely skill in playing the deck, but it's testing a different skill set than those kind of decks.
Yeah, the skill of decks like Sneak and Show is what did you do before you comboed? What did you, right? When did you go for it? What did you cantrip into? I mean, the actual, how did you cast Show and Tell? What did you put into play? That's not really.
There's a lot of pressure on your opening hands.
Sure.
How good are your mulligans? That definitely gets tested with that sort of deck. But
yeah. I've often said the reasons I don't, even though I love combo decks, I don't like twin combo, is the actual skill to being a great twin player is to, the people who are good twin players aren't good combo players. They're good blue-white Delver tempo players. That's the skill to playing twin. The actual combo part is, the deck's not even a combo deck.
Yeah.
I played it expecting to combo people, and then I got really disappointed. I ran in one event and said, I'm not any good at this.
You were winning with Batterskull more than you were winning with...
No, I tried to win with Splinter Twin. That was the problem. I wanted to twin people, and I came to the reason of, this is horrible. Why am I trying to do this? Mm-hmm. I was like, wait, this is a Delver deck in disguise. And then I played something else. It's blue-red Snapcaster with twin combo.
Yep.
That.
So it looks like Zack is happy with his 6-card hand for the second game in a row. Robbie going down to 5 cards.
On the draw, that may be fine for Esper Dragons.
Well, the concern that I have for the matchup with Zack Mulligan, even with Robbie going to 5 cards, is I feel like the core of Zack's deck, the power of it is coming from 4-mana plays, especially in this matchup. Outpost Siege, Chandra Pyromaster, Perforos especially, those are challenging cards for Esper Dragons to beat sometimes. And when he mulligans with only 22 lands in his deck, there's just a high probability he doesn't get there. And his 1 and 2 and 3 mana plays are not so threatening that Robbie is out of the game even on a mulligan to 5 cards.
Yeah, I mean, his cards by themselves don't seem to be very powerful. Where they do great 2-card interactions, which get really good. You know, Perforos is fine. Is weak. Raise the Armor is weak. Raise the Arm with Perforos is strong. So as he gets to fewer cards, his cards have to be standalone good.
Exactly. You're going to get more spots of Raise the Alarm with no synergy or Perforos
Right.
with no creature, and those are not spots where Zack's going to play a very good game of Magic.
It's like Perforos with 1 creature. That's not a token. It's like Perforos plus Seeker. You're like, that's okay. So Zack starts out on Mountain. Robbie on Urborg, he'll Thought Seize. You see 2 Lightning Strikes, a Monastery Mentor, and a Secure the Wastes. It's not a great... This hand is relying a lot on Monastery Mentor. Thought Seize is really going to hurt it.
Exactly. Zack's sideboard here, 2 Glare of Heresy, 2 Banishing Light, 2 Dragon Hunter, a Burn Away, 2 Ride Down, 2 Searing Blood, 2 Rose, 2 Surge of Righteousness. Not a lot really for this matchup. And so he has to leave in cards like Lightning Strike. And
Yeah.
that's really going to magnify the power of this Thoughtseize now that Zack is down to 2 Lightning Strikes and to Secure the Waste and only 1 other land in his hand.
I mean, if you were Lightning Striking with a Mentor in play, then those strikes become okay. But as it is here, you look at both their hands. Zack has 2 lands in play. His hand is 3rd land, Secure, Strike, Strike. That does, I think, even less than Robbie's hand. Robbie's hand is land 2, land 3, which is a Temple, Bioblight, Ojutai. And I don't know, both players are just kind of doing bust-up thing, like just treading water. Eventually what's going to happen is Robbie will cast Ojutai.
Yep.
And then he'll win.
The burden is on Zack to be the aggressor because
Yeah.
Robbie has very clear inevitability. The only thing that Zack has in his deck to potentially muck that up is Perforos. That's the card that allows him to win a game even when Robbie's doing his thing.
Yeah, a 2-up. He'll go ahead and shoot the Lightning Strike off at Robbie's face. Robbie's down to 15. And with no Seeker or Mentor in play, or in hand even, that's the play. Draws another land. He'll play land 3. And I was wondering if he's going to do this. He's going to go ahead and secure on for 2 while Robbie has and represents no counter spells.
Zack can't get this countered. You know, he's already
He's
very
dead if
light
it's
on
countered.
very light on real resources. So it does not necessarily look great to be main phasing a Secure the Waste for 2, but that's how it's got to be.
Duress. Robbie's going to fire it off before it's dead. Takes the last Lightning Strike, leaves Zack with a Mountain. He'll play that, and a land here. He could play an untapped land to Bioblight. He does have an Urborg in play, or he has a tap land. But Robbie, clear game plan. Lands 3-4 in his hand and an Ojutai.
This is looking great. The ability to cast Dragon Lord Ojutai. He can Bioblight if he wants to. It looks like he just wants to get his land, his Temple out of the way this turn, but
what a position of strength where Robbie just didn't Bioblight there. Templing was better. He was okay to pay life for it.
I think that Robbie would have been better served by Bioblighting that turn because, you know, he has an opportunity to play the Temple tapped next turn, and then he's probably on 5 mana and Ojutai. I'm not really looking to take this extra 2 points of damage here.
Yeah.
That said, Robbie's still in great shape.
Yeah, and what his scry was he kept an untapped land on top. So you see he untaps, and he'll go ahead and Bioblight away the tokens. Saved until Zack's upkeep in case Zack had another Raise the Alarm or Secure the Wastes.
Yeah, I like the
Well
timing
played.
there a lot.
And here's Monastery Mentor from Zack. Great card. And but here's Ojutai.
We've seen this game plan from Robbie before, of just getting very aggressive, throwing this out there. Now, he's got very little protection for this. He's just got anticipated in hand. If Zack has something like Valorous Stance, like Stoke the Flames, some way to remove this Ojutai, even Chain the Rocks after the fact, Zack might claw back into this game. He does have a window here to remove Dragonlord Ojutai and probably be fine.
And interestingly, he goes ahead and passes. He maybe could have just, I want to say he could have just swung Monastery Mentor into Ojutai.
I don't buy it.
You block it?
Robbie just snapped him off last time and immediately blocked when it was a token in front of Dragonlord Ojutai. Monastery Mentor, with Zack representing spells in hand, I think Robbie's blocking there real fast.
But what happens, okay, so the counter is, what happens if then Robbie just doesn't attack here? What if he just keeps that Ojutai and says go?
I don't think I would have, I think to that end, I would have been fine with Robbie casting Anticipate first to see what's up. Because if you find a counter spell, then go ahead and attack. Based on that information, you may do something very different.
Finds Thought Seize, Ojutai, Dig Through Time off this Anticipate. Valor Stance is coming after Ojutai. Yeah, you almost want to see him cast his Anticipate before swinging the dragon.
Yeah, just it can only provide more information.
Yeah, and so the dragon does get killed here, and Zack gets a monk token. Now he's got some game.
Oh, definitely. And Robbie with Dragon Lord Ojutai in his hand, but this is going to be pretty slow. And
Hordling Outburst. Yeah, wow. From Robbie Calhoun, I think he a little aggressive with the Ojutai, and that could come back to get him.
If you're going to attack with Ojutai there anyway, I'm fine with it. At the end of the day, you say he's gotten a couple draw steps. I need to hit with this thing to gain advantage. I'm okay with that. I still think ultimately you're better served attacking first.
Anticipating first?
Or, excuse me, anticipating first. Because let's say even if you find Hero's Downfall, you can downfall the Mentor first, and then if you get hit with Valorous Stance or Stoke the Flames, well, then there's no Monk token left over.
The other side is that way he gets to know whether or not Zack has a kill spell before he anticipates. Hard to say. He does take 5 damage though off that attack, and now Robbie in a tough spot is going to have to dig through time, and he may need to just find a Bio Blight.
He's got three copies of Drown Sorrow on his sideboard as well, so he's definitely got some big hits here.
Drown Sorrow would be huge. You're absolutely right. And against the tokens deck, those you have to assume those are in.
Yeah.
If he has found one, this will clean everything up. And he has. Drown in Sorrow takes care of Zack's entire board. And what a play for Robbie Calhoun. Speaking too soon, he's able to clean it all up. Here's 4 mana. This is Stoke the Flames. Robbie's down to 4. Like how he plays it when Robbie's tapped out.
Yep.
Robbie's gonna tap out for another Ojutai and hope. I believe. We'll see. Here we go. Here's the dragon. Don't kill him.
Slumgar Scorn, I believe,
Oh,
is
that
left
is
on hand.
oh, that's dirty. Okay. So he's just got Zack covered. Temple from Zack. Robbie's at 4, but this is going to be really hard for Zack to get in.
Yeah, being a counterspell in this spot is going to be challenging.
He's going to need 2 game-winning draws, and he's going to need Robbie to not find another counterspell off draws and Ojutai hits.
Even Foul Tongue Invocation here is a huge game, even if Zack doesn't draw another creature for the remainder.
Foul Tongue Invocation more or less counters Stoke the Flames. Yeah, here's Ojutai. Zack's down to 15. It's going to be 4 hits from Ojutai to try to seal it off. First Scry looks like a counter spell and 2 lands. If Robbie does have 2 hard counters, Zack is not going to get through that.
Yeah, not dead, but pretty close.
Ojutai's real good. Here's Hordling Outburst. Well, he has a Bio Blight. I think he'll let that happen.
Yeah, Robbie was very quick to counter that, but if you can cash in the Bio Blight for this and leave the counter spells for burn spells, he's better served.
Yep, Bio Blight takes care of it. Yes, he stopped before he did that. He checked how many cards in hand. Zack says 0.
Yep.
Okay, this works. 5 more. Zack down to 10. Another Anticipate. And he just wants counter spells right now. There aren't uncounterable threats that he has to worry about. 3 counter spells in hand now. And there's no breaking through this. Zack only gets 2 draws.
What a turnaround for Robbie this game. I mean, it actually kind of went in turnarounds in 2 stages where it felt like Zack had no game initially.
Yep.
Got it turned around, and then Robbie on the ropes there found Drown Sorrow, and from there was just no letting up.
And like how Zack played it, he had to keep committing to the board and force Robbie to have it. You can't, playing around Drown and Sorrow is too big of a price there.
I mean, if he plays around Drown and Sorrow, Robbie's other card in hand, Dragon Lord Ojutai. So if you slow roll your threats, Dragon Lord Ojutai comes down, you can't block and you lose that way. I like Zack going for it in that spot, but that dig through time yielded Drown and Sorrow and there was no coming back.
So there you have it, 2 games to 0. Robbie Calhoun moves to 8-0 with 1 round to go. He remains undefeated with Esper Dragons.